not sure if this is the best music for this. Well, this is the recap for sessions 27 up to, I believe, 35. It encapsulates the 4th arc for the players in their journey so far. Bringing us to Urban Nightmare. So this chapter is basically the Urban Plague chapter, although we have been loosey-goosey and threading things around, so it's not fully Urban Plague, but it is mostly Urban Plague. Now, last time when we left off, we had a character leaving the party, so this chapter begins with a new character joining, so controlled by the same player, mind you. So, chapter 20, session 28 begins with the office, which has been rebranded from MOM to Meteora. They're middle of a pack, grade 6 fixer office, give or take. They had basically split apart to do some downtime activities for their break, which was a few weeks. There was a few things cooking in the back burner. For example, Cyssel, who is the operator and the head honcho of the office, who originates from the district where N-Corp originates from, which I believe is District 13, if I can just double check. I think I'd have this all set by now. District 14. She's from District 14. And thusly she, it's not great there. She got a letter saying, "Hey Bozo, you have some unfinished business you have to handle here. We're going to give you some time, otherwise we're going to make a decision for you, and it's not going to be a good one." And she knows that that is, a hit squad would be sent out for her to bring her in. So, she was going to handle that after getting a important thing done. Since Cirilla, who is the character that left, was the only one who, in the main office themselves, knew, or at least started to learn how to speak Sweeper, Cyssel believed there was a good opportunity to shore up their weaknesses of not having a language expert and going to visit the person who taught her, which was our version of Pierre. Again, this whole entire thing is a fucking abomination of a bunch of different things, but it's loosely tied to whatever canon I can try to muster up. So Cyssel heads over to try and learn Sweeper. At the same time, Cynthia, the other original founding member of the Meteora office, wanted to do the same, but more so to just visit her friend. So the two of them, unprompted, came up to each other and said, "Hey, I'm gonna go head out." And it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do the same. Where are you going?" "District 22. "Oh, me too. ... So they both went, and Pierre had a job where she, along with Jack, were to head out to the outskirts nearby, as a very important client had requested them to investigate some ruins and dig up something of obvious value, and that is the only vague description that they were given. So they headed on out, and upon arriving, they had found a a rundown relic of the old times, a place called Rhine Country, which seems to have housed a corp from before the world had gone to shit. It was being controlled by raptors from our corp, but they were able to somehow sneak their way in and found Beta, who is a Warforged, a mechanical being, a machine who has free will and thought and simulations of emotions and such. Sounds familiar. However, this is from before, so she's a porcelain-like figure. She was found underneath some rubble, and with Cynthia reaching out to be like, oh, what's this? And grabbing her, formed some sort of connection with the light welling within them through their connection of the library, thus sparking her awake. And in doing so, Beta herself immediately was shifted from, you know, just being knocked out to, what do you mean it's hundreds of years later? She is severely out of time, not in the sense of like she's on borrowed time, but she is just displaced. She is basically grandma, in a sense. But they had business they needed to do, which was to go to the core of the facility and to figure out some things that had happened, which coincidentally is also where the team has to go. So both groups decided to just join up for this venture. Heading down in, despite Beta's malfunctioning frontal cortex and her, I believe we called it just derpy attitude, there are moments of memories leaking back into her of other beings similar make and model of her sisters, being attacked and the whole facility going to shit at the hands of her most advanced and biggest sister, Omega, who was the crowning jewel of the corporation that made them. So something had gone wrong, and Beta had found out during the exploration that two of her sisters were dead, out of a whole series of models, a limited run, mind you, and the others are nowhere to be found. Nor are there any signs of where her dad may have gone or had been taken, as there is no body of him. There's bodies of the other researchers and such, old skeletons laid to waste, picked clean by age of time, but that's all that they were able to find. Inside of the center of the facility was a security system which came to life and attacked them, confusing Beta for Omega. Beta had put them down with the help of her newfound allies, and in doing so, they seem to have found a bunch of items being developed, mostly useless prototypes except for a few good ones, and a set of bionicle, kind of like Dr. Octopus arms, which the team was like, hey, it makes sense that this is probably the object of high value, because it is, it could be useful to have many arms in the kitchen. So, with that, they headed on out and spent a few days traveling back to District 22. The party was given a hotel stay, and Beta stuck around with them. She has to power herself down mentally to a sort of placid and kind of just like half there state, enough for her to not seem sentient, just like a normal machine should be, which is perfectly good and viable for bypassing any scrutiny by anybody of her, well, not of her level, but those under her level. So effectively, if a entity is underneath her level, they can't determine that she is actually sentient. The party went to sleep. She stayed up, as she does not need to go to sleep, but felt a sort of odd pull towards a dreamlike state. In doing so, finds herself in the library itself, the one that the party so frequently visited. And it was enough to actually fix Beta of her mental damage that she had suffered for being inactive for so long. And much to her cringe, those memories that she made were unable to be deleted. So she just has that core memory of her being rar XD lol so random with her newfound friends. Continuing from that, they helped out in the library, introducing Beta to the concepts of what's going on here. She is now part of the pact, forced onto it more so than a willing joining, but it's not like she has much of a choice in the matter. Helping out with a few abnormality suppressions, the team is pulled back to the main foyer where Angela decides to bring something up to their attention, something that she specifically said did not need to, but Roland suggested that it was perhaps of interest for the party. It shot over to Pierre being attacked by the client, which was everybody's favorite big old shark lady. Greta tore into her, calling her inept for getting the wrong thing, and leaving her for dead as Backstreet Butchers arrived on scene to clean up, and it was not looking good. Angela suggested for them to perhaps go and intervene to go save their friend, in doing so also bringing them into the pact as well, or simply letting an invitation come out and that the library themselves will kill their friends. So the team decided, let's not do that, went over, saved them, and then headed on back to their home district, from which Cyssel, unable to dawdle on her laurels any longer, had to answer the call of District 14. And now, a place heavily against modified beings and non-biological things now has to carry in tow a person with a bionicle arm and a being completely constructed and not biological whatsoever. Also, Lenny's here. She went along too. They headed on over, and it was a bit of a tense situation. If not for a brand forced onto Cyssel, giving them clemency and allowing them free, safe passage so long as they adhere to the laws of the land to the best of their ability and helping out with what they need to do, there won't be any trouble. So, it's a very simple mission, so it seemed. Her parents, Cyssel's parents, were hotshots. Keyword being were, ever since her leaving and sullying the family name, or at least that's what they continue to tell her, that she's the root reason why everything went to shit. Out of desperation, they seem to have done something they should not have, and had awakened something that they both could not control and were overtaken by. So now, her home villa, this nice splendid manor, is seeping sand everywhere, and these dark demons are pouring out, killing and attacking people. They sent a squad of knights over. The knights were not enough, and to not waste resources, as something major was coming up, they delegated it to her. Either she handles it and fixes the sins of her parents, or she dies. Either way, it's a win-win for them. So, she heads over with her team in tow, and at a strenuous moment in the middle of her manor, as a flesh-torn and almost chimera-like version of a knight ripped into them, her father figure and mentor stepped in, a longtime family friend and a renowned fixer from the Dawn office in Salvador had shown up to help them out. In tow was Alop, who is still in the damaged artwork, oops, and Yuna, his compatriots, came in, helped them clean up in the nick of time. And the first thing Salvador wanted to do, after immediately noticing that Beta is not what she seems, causing Beta to immediately leave the scene, looking for any excuse to not be in the presence of somebody greater than her, wanted to catch up with Cyssel, so they had a tea time. Cyssel was very vague with everything that she's been up to, especially omitting the fact that she is in pact with this, at the current moment, was an urban plague known as the Library. And despite that, Salvador is very proud of her for what she's done so far, what she's achieved, considering the hand that she was dealt with, being cast out with little to her name. And look at her now, taking back her home, quite literally, as the team later finds the study of her father, where, would you look at that? There's a ritual circle. They learn that her parents had taken a artifact from N-Corp, a thing that allowed them to see what they shouldn't see, a future for which they who grip Cromer wanted to ensure. And in using that power and trying to manipulate it and learn how to summon an even greater power within them, ends up with them summoning a greater power that they cannot control and were beaten by, which is Tanya, the Jackal of Power, who beat their ass without even taking her hands out of her pockets, and simply saying that she's impressed that they're surviving still, despite having all of their internal organs destroyed. And that's when it's revealed to Cyssel, as Tanya rips open her parents, that they were augmented this whole time. Now, it's not uncommon for those of higher position in this world to have augments to improve their prowess and capabilities as a fixer, or just to survive. But to preach and to kill those who were augmented while being them themselves is something that sets Cyssel's blood aboil. Who she herself has been unaugmented all of her years that she's been alive. They had sacrificed their family butler to create this portal, and in order to seal it, they'd have to enter it and kill the butler. After a rough battle, they barely managed to get through, putting an end to it, and as the sand began to suck itself back in, and night turned to day, Tanya had peered over the horizon, and primal fear filled everybody as they ran out of the portal for their lives. Salvador congratulated them, leaving the entire thing up for her to deal with, as she herself stated this is something she has to do. Finished with that, they report back to N-Corp, back at their nest, where this whole time, the person who has been handling their situation is a blast from the past for Cyssel. A Aguirre, try to find him, a Marcel Aguirre, a knight in N-Corp, and a relatively high-positioned one too. The same one that she had tossed her life away in order to back up. And now, here they are, reunited once again, but not under good terms. It wasn't over just yet, though. They will soon be tasked with another mission, having learned that well, Cyssel knows about this, but the other two were informed of this sort of boogeyman, the Church of Gears that would come in at night, steal away people, and turn them into machines. Something that is very dreadful to anybody, but especially those who were raised and forced to hate those who dare to integrate themselves with machinery. They needed to go and handle their leader, as with some interrogating, they'd learned where the leader is located. by the use of a fairy to unlock the memories of a captive. However, it seemed to have cost Marcel a little bit of himself, but so be it. The job needed to be done, and with that, the team is let loose once again, like hounds of war, off to go and handle this situation, to free those that were captured, and to learn how they're turning people into machinery, and ultimately, to bring in the leader, to have them be tried, and hopefully have their memories extracted to undo the process that they've done to people. But before they leave, Marcel tells Cyssel there are assassins out there, ready to possibly strike down the leader of the Church of Gears, something that they have to ensure won't happen. They headed on out, able to sneak into a compound, able to free some hostages, make their way in, their disguise immaculate, donning robes, beating the shit out of Lenny and making her look like a bruised and beaten captive that they're taking in, which did not even need to happen, as they rolled so well with their initial stealth that Lenny being beat up was nothing but them just beating up Lenny. Something that she brought up and it was immediately brushed off. As they headed on in, the Church of Gears had turned somebody into a gear, and the leader had installed them into her head. A woman by the name... Let's see if I can pull her up. Oh goodness, I might not actually have them as a... do not have them as a actual... have them as an actual thing just yet. Which episode is this? Goodness, we are all over the place. Yep. Do I have art of her here? Nope. Well, there we go. Eileen. The leader. And that's when shots rang out. And it seems that, well, the assassins are there. And they're about to put her down. Just before the team could strike, a heavy pressure fell onto them, onto everybody in the room, as a man in a blue outfit descended from nowhere. A color, the blue reverberation, had arrived, and for a moment, forgot that they had saved Aline, who immediately was calling them my lord and thanking them. The assassins, the Full Stop to Life office, immediately, and with good reason, decided they did not want to trifle with a color and tried to leave, which the color hunted them down to play with. The party, realizing once he's done with them, they're next, had to leave, especially with a entire squadron of Church of Gear members starting to cause commotion and descend downwards as the N-Corp army rises on the mountaintops and begins to descend downwards on them as well. They're kind of in a hard place. And looking over to Lenny, she seems to be seething with anger and welling up with emotion as... That's not a good picture of it. Enemies, fixers, full stop. As it looked like somebody on the other office that looked similar to her had caught her eye. Her brother, Stefan. Before long, they are given an invitation, their ticket out of that place. And Lenny and her team, her friends, has to have a reception against her own blood. During which, Lenny kills Stefan, who berated her for surviving despite being trash and being meant to be discarded. And that's when Lenny broke and said, you know what? I've been through so much. I've proven myself to me. I don't need to prove myself to anybody else. She deserves to live. And he doesn't. And with with that, she puts him down. But it's not easy to kill your own family, is it? Internalizing that, the team, they appear outside of the compound, thanks to the library song, and go to report to Marcel, back at the nest. Job's done. Families have been reunited. Those that they saved were able to enjoy their Christmas, as it was Christmas time. Specifically, let's see if I have the... Wow, these are a lot of sessions here. What Christmas is this? I think it's the Christmas of Memories. Regardless, it was a Christmas time event. They who gripped showed up and gave a rousing speech. They participated in the festivities. Most importantly, Cromer's words struck a very good accord with Lenny and Cyssel. As for Cynthia and Beta, they resisted their words. And in addition to that, also heard them speak to them about how it's okay for them to be misguided, that one day they'll finally awaken and realize what they're doing wrong. With that, Cynthia buys a poster of Cromer to burn later, and they end the little Cyssel mini arc there with Christmas heading back home. Ever since Pierre got beat the fuck up by Greta, she's basically had a little bit of brain damage. Cynthia, using a bit of her Eldritch-like abilities, connected to the Eldritch-like insides of Pierre, and had a decision to make. Either make her a bit more vicious and fix her up, removing some of the humanity that she had built up by being with them, or do the opposite, make more room for more humanity and getting rid of the bad stuff. Cynthia decided to make Pierre a good girl and fixed her brain real good. And with that, well, she basically owed their life to the party. So, Cyssel had an idea. They were able to loot the deed to the land that Pierre had owned in District 23. And considering that Cyssel just got a brand new spanking manor in District 14, her family estate, why not make a business? Her manor makes vegetables, produces food and produce and such, and Pierre gets a little restaurant in District 22 to both operate as a subsidiary of the Meteora office and as a sister office, which she takes. Also, during that whole time, they had a Zwei officer named Lemon, who helped them out in a prior mission, come over to babysit their pets, which is just a normal orange tabby cat and a literal demon sheep. No questions were asked. Lemon is a vibe. Lemon is just there to fucking chill and eat hot chip. So Lemon became the third member of the sister office. And, well, it was time for them to try and build up the place, spend a month of getting the name out there, and just making sure that, hey, this is gonna be, profitable. And thus begins the beach episode arc. And it was a lot of, fun events, a lot of downtime of just going in, hanging out, doing fun community events, triathlons, other things like that. Ending in a swimsuit competition that Jack somehow won, Pierre somehow got second, which she believes is a mistake that she even was on the podium, and Lemon got third. But their names were out there in the first few weeks and first month of the business was very, very fruitful. So much so that they can prop themselves up, and now the office has basically doubled in power and doubled in revenue, which is great. It would be a real shame if their taxes crept up to them. But for now, no need to worry about that. They went back to just working on library stuff, handling suppressions for abnormalities, and starting to learn more about the library, the habitants, and Roland, who seems to, especially for Beta, to be very chatty and very much just trying to figure out what's going on. A little bit more than somebody who is just showing up would. Because she's in the same boat. But he's prying more than she does. Beta finds out, by the way, during the whole Church of Gears thing, the reason that they're able to, sorry to go back on this tangent, able to go and turn people into Gears is because, well, one of her sisters was very well versed in magic. And in one of the memories that they uncovered during the interrogation with the fairy, it seems that her sister is working with the Church of Gears. Which, in turn, because the Blue Reverberation saved the leader of the Church of Gears, perhaps that means that she'll now be serving him. It's a lot for Beta to take, especially feeling like she just failed to protect her sibling. So she's not been doing too great and really needed that beach episode to just vibe and just return to a nice, decent state. Because being woken up after hundreds of years, immediately being thrown into a world of violence, a world that you tried to fight for, and it seems to maybe have not been worth it. Having some normalcy was nice. Just a fun few weeks. But they went back to handling receptions for the library. I mean, money is money, and the library is offering them some actual financial rewards for assisting them with things while they had other things to attend to. The receptions were fine. There was one with a situation about the warp train that did not go by well. At the very end of the encounter, Lovetown, which we do not speak of, Cynthia was ripped in half before Beta's eyes as to marry this hulking abomination of combined humanoids. Just tore her limb from limb before discarding her body, which poofed into pages. Cynthia taking a hit for Beta, something that would have killed Beta, and it just broke her memories. She's unable to remember that day. Cyssel manages to bring it back, striking down the hulking mass of flesh. But Cynthia's gone now. It doesn't feel good. Didn't feel like they won, despite them still standing. Angela, after some quiet reflection, brings back Cynthia from her book form. Malkuth, who was the patron librarian of the floor they were using, was very confused, asking why they were doing that, as it goes against them collecting light. Angela refuting her, giving her a rebuttal saying that she doesn't know what she wants, that only she herself knows, before walking off. A new stipulation was added to their pact. One that will, in moments of high duress and high difficulty, will allow some leniency for mistakes, for death. But make no mistake, that does not mean that everybody can be brought back. After all, what's the point in having a harrowing death experience generate as much light as possible if you know you'll be walking away living, guaranteed, even if you fail and become a book? No, not like that. So, after that, the team decided, you know what, we're going to take a seat back. Cynthia, go kick rocks. Beta is currently turned off and is just glitched out and not responsive because of all the trauma, especially with Cynthia's final words, very hauntingly reflecting the final words she heard her other sisters tell her before she got killed. It's a lot to take in for Beta. The team takes a break. B team shows in, Bistro team. They decide to go ahead and take care of some final receptions for them. The musicians of Bremen seem to be a little cult of musicians that are now working with a blue reverberation. A simple sort of job. Just try to handle it. However, one of them manages to get away after Pierre completely disfigures their face. Seems people with a strong enough will are able to leave the library. Time passes. Wounds heal. And Cyssel was told, hey, boss, like Pierre calls her in the dead of the night, as at their doorstep back at District 22, which is where the Dawn office is situated in. Philip is banging on the door saying that they have to go after the library because Salvador and Una died there. They tried to handle the library, they couldn't. And here Philip is trying to gather up more help and support to bring them back. Cyssel, being part of the library themselves, the whole entire Meteora office and franchisees, unable to, well, do so, refused. And it led to Cyssel, Cynthia, Beta, and Lenny going up against the might of the Wedge office and Philip. The Wedge office, being experts in piercing, being led by Oscar, a grizzled veteran just like Salvador, almost like a brother to him. They had a very intense fight that almost led to more deaths. But in the end, Philip once again runs away. And in his despair of realizing that all he's doing is running, leaving people to die, and then bringing people back to die again and again, realize that he can't keep doing that. He's full of pathetic sorrow, but he will use that pathetic sorrow to bolster himself back up. Because nobody should have to cry on his account anymore. As he began to listen to whispers in the air, and returned with an imperfect ego, wax wings and a wax sword and body armor. The fight was not as intense as the prior ones. Philip was more so drained after the prior encounters, and everybody else was raring to go, especially with the helps of copious amounts of drugs. As Philip laid down, melting, a rift in the air opened up. Cynthia and Cyssel ventured in to see, well, what led to this. To see him being a child of war, his parents being killed, Salvador saving him, only for Philip to, years later, become a fixer and join the very same office. Salvador being like a father figure, something Cyssel can relate to. And Cynthia, the damn sweetheart that she is, didn't want to see him suffer anymore either. Both of them wanted to just give him a gentle death and to just calm down. But their words wouldn't reach him. In fact, prior to that whole entire rift opening up, Beta was shit-talking him, saying that he failed his father. He's the reason why they're dead. And considering Philip's lost 2 parents and Salvador, it was too much and he just couldn't hear their words. Listening to whispers again of someone in the air that neither of the other 2 could hear before they were thrusted back out. And And as Philip accepted his death from Cyssel, and as Cyssel swung her bat, a pendant around Philip's neck, given to him by Oscar, lit up, and with that he was whisked away as he screamed out, damning Oscar for giving him that. As this time he didn't want to run. He wanted to finally join the others. But he's out there somewhere. They don't know what's gonna happen now. But with that ends all the encounters. More downtime was given. Beta decided perhaps it's best to just have a little picnic and try to celebrate. Not just the library gaining strength, but also, well, more people being awoken as a new patron librarian joined. Tifrith. I'm clicking all the wrong things. Tifrith joined, having been awoken. And with that, nice fun downtime was had. People talked, got to know each other, made plans for the future. And with that, the Urban Plague saga comes to a close. And the new chapter coming out, starting soon, will be an Urban Nightmare. Will the team be able to handle it? They have a lot of resources, potentially. They have a lot of allies. They have the means to do so. But the odds are going to mount against them. Will they be able to continue to defy expectations? Only time is going to tell. And that's the end of Arc 4 for them so far. They're about halfway done with the game. And if you have played the game yourself, you can see that they're getting there too. Characters are also being introduced left and right. It's been a while, but we're going to be continuing this soon. So there's that to look forward to. I enjoy running this with them. I enjoy them allowing me to share my brain rot in some way, shape, or form to them. And I just hope that this continues swimmingly.